Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Industries Live. It's that time again, my favorite time of the week. It must be Tuesday morning. I'm joined by my co-host, Addy. We're here to bring you what's going to be a fantastic couple of episodes of Industry Live this morning. Very excited about this one. I'm joining you from Seattle. It is, winter is coming in Seattle. Fall is at least here, and the leaves have turned, and it is dark this morning. Well, it's just past that phase of dark. So I hope wherever you are, it's sunny and you're seeing sunlight, but it's definitely a time of transition here in the Pacific Northwest. This is your first time joining us on Industries Live, this is our every second week we get together and we talk and we dive into an industry and we talk deeply about what's going on in that industry, the transitions, the trends, what we're hearing from our customers and from our partners, and what the opportunities are for our customers and partners to really differentiate and disrupt what's going on in the industry. I love it. It's super interesting every week. I learn something every time we talk through these, and this week is no exception. We have two fantastic partners for you, which we're going to be joined by in a second. My name is Michael Schmidt. I look after industry partnerships here at AWS, and I'm joined by my co-host, Addy. Good morning, Addy. How are you? How are things in New York this morning? How are you feeling this morning?
I'm well, Michael. I am so excited for today's episode. It's becoming autumn here, and it's been a wonderful week that's transitioning between hot and cold. I had my 3-year-old son go for his first pumpkin farm visit, and it was exciting. So I'm really loving the orange. Overall, this episode is really exciting for me because we as a partner solutions team really focus on those industry use cases. We're looking for ways in which we can help our line of business customers with ready technology and consulting solutions that can really help them apply to their business challenges and bring it all together on AWS. With that, this month's theme is modernization and FSI. And we're really going to touch on one side of it, which is the modernization of core systems, how they've been digitizing completely. And on the other side, we're going to really leap forward into how agentic architectures are reshaping workflows. So with that, we should welcome Paul Sweeney of Engine by Starling.
Thank you very much, folks. Good afternoon, I'll say. I'm joining you from London. I flew over from Dublin this morning. I'm actually based out of Ireland. And fall, as you call it, autumn, as we call it, has definitely arrived in Dublin. I mean, it's cold and windy, and we had our first storm of the season at the weekend. But at least today it's dry, and I'm here, and I'm really looking forward to this.
Paul, I'm Australian, so I can interpret at any moment if you needed to. Having lived in the US for 10 years, I'm still kind of I flip between both. Paul, why don't we start by, do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk maybe a little bit about Engine by Starling, and you could just talk a little bit about what the company does.
Absolutely, Michael. Well, first, just to say thanks very much, obviously, for having us on. I'm quite a fan of Industries. I tune in quite regularly, and I think what you're doing and the scope of the people you talk to is fantastic. So it's really great to be able to come on and give you a sense of what we're doing in Engine. So my name is Paul Sweeney. As I said, I work for Engine by Starling. I'm a senior solution architect here in Engine. My background is in banking technology, core banking technology, I suppose. I've worked for a number of the large retail banks over here in Europe for, let's just say, for a few years at this stage. I've been around the block. And I joined Engine by Starling about 3 years ago, just when it was spinning out of Starling Bank. So that's really, I suppose, where I've come to. I've been on both sides of the fence, shall we say, with some of the more legacy technologies that require modernization. And now I like to think working with Engine, probably on one of the most modern core banking platforms that's out there.
And I've been with AWS for about 7 years now, and I had the opportunity to see how open banking really brought about transformation to the industry. It started off in EMEA and then had repeating patterns globally with open API frameworks coming up. But it truly digitized the banking experience. What was that journey for the Starling team, and how did y'all come up with Engine? It's a fascinating product.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting question, Addy. What you're talking about there, as you say, that democratization, shall we say, of the financial network and open banking was huge. But actually, Starling Bank's story nearly goes back further and yet is more recent than that. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to do a little bit of a history lesson. I'm going to take you back to the heady days of 2014, 2015, when Starling Bank was originally founded. So Starling Bank is, for those who don't know, of course I'm forgetting that I'm not purely talking to a UK and Irish audience, is probably one of the, if not the leading UK digital banks. It was probably the first digital bank within the UK, let's say purely digital, no bricks and mortar whatsoever. It runs completely on AWS cloud. So it was probably the first deployment of a fully cloud native financial institution here in the UK. And basically, where it came from was that its founder, Anne Bowden, she worked for a long time, a bit like myself, shall we say, in retail banking, in the whole technology area, etc. And she decided when she left retail banking, kind of in her mid-50s, that there was a better way to do things, and there was a way that we could improve, I suppose, banking as the whole industry. There was more that could be offered out there. So she set up in 2015, she set up Starling Bank. And since then it went into the App Store, I think in 2017, and it now has over 4.5 million customers. It's consistently profitable, and it features, I think, every year for the last 4 or 5 years in the first 2 or 3 from a customer service perspective. So she's basically proven that digital banking can be a success. I mean, that whole area of what the customer needs and providing a fully digitized service to the customer to do all of their banking needs. There is no requirement to visit a bank. There is no bricks and mortar, as I say, in any of the Starling element. And I think that, while it seems nearly, I suppose, commonplace now, at the time it was quite a risk, and it really was hugely innovative that something like this could be achieved. So Starling Bank grew out of that, and as I said, evolved over the last 7 years. We see here, just looking at the slide, it's very profitable now, over 700 million revenue, a very low cost to serve, and growing all the time at over 4.5 million accounts. So when Anne decided that they were going to create Starling Bank, the question really was, well, what technology could underpin such an initiative? And she had a very clear vision in her head of what she wanted Starling Bank to be and how it should operate. And there was nothing available at the time, back in 2014, 2015, that was going to deliver that level of resilience, scalability, performance, capability off the shelf. So the decision was taken, that now was the time maybe to build, with a clean sheet of paper, a new ultimate banking application. And again, if we think back to 2014, 2015, this was the time when AWS and cloud adoption had really started to come to the fore. It was being accepted. It was being seen as an improvement. I mean, I talk about my days before that in legacy banks, where there very much would have been a sense that your data centers had to be on-prem and your applications had to be managed by yourself, etc. But that whole model was changing. It still hadn't quite broken into the financial world, but it was definitely changing. So if you think of that perfect storm of the new digital internet style architectures and the microservices, etc., giving you the availability, and then the services from someone like AWS, particularly initially back then in the US and in Europe, it was the perfect combination. The opportunity was there. So the new banking platform Engine was built out of that. And as I say, the bank.
Paul, could I ask a question there, just in terms of, it's super interesting to understand like the dynamics and the shifts there. Tell me about in amongst that, what do you see as the change in customers' expectations and what they're looking for through that period of change?
And it's interesting you should say that, Michael. Again, we tend to be a little bit spoiled here in Western Europe, and it's probably similar in the US, that the expectation for a selection of mobile apps or mobile banks is there. But what we've seen as part of Engine going around the world is that isn't always the case. But the customer expectation is absolutely there. They expect to be far more empowered now, the ability to manage their day-to-day banking, the ability to have all the capability in the palm of their hand, to no longer have to ring into a call center or call to a branch to do something like freeze a credit card or to enable a magistrate, etc. So those day-to-day functions, the ability to manage your overall financial estate should be there at your fingertips. And we've seen it in the travel industry, we've seen it in the streaming industry, in retail, obviously with Amazon and AWS, etc. So the expectation has been there from a customer perspective. I think the difference that maybe Anne grabbed at the time is, as well as that, there had to be a level of customer service, and there had to be a level of customer, that was key. I mentioned earlier that we consistently score, and Starling Bank does, first or second in all of the various NPS and customer service surveys. And the reason for that is very much that focus on customer service. And that could be done because, along with giving you all the capabilities in the palm of your hand, what that did was it freed up things like a call center to be there to deal with issues that were important. So maybe in the event of a potential scam, when you try to ring up, you're not put on hold. There is no IVR. You reach a person. It is what we term digital with a human touch. So absolutely, you have the capability. But when it's required, Michael, as you say, the customer service has to be there. And I think that's been key.
I think this is an excellent trend that you're calling out. You know, we as we saw the base of our customers truly adopt the cloud and AWS, we identified how they were combining the Lego blocks, but it was those fintechs and those startups that were able to start fresh and construct from scratch and just move so much faster. And so when customers that had legacy systems had to do end-to-end modernization, that was a heavy lift. And I think one of the unique aspects of the Engine platform is you've kind of built those aspects out. Tomorrow, if there's a mid-tier firm, there's a large enough institution, and they need to build a digital experience, Engine can get them going really fast on AWS.
And that's exactly what it is, Addy. I mean, I was talking earlier, I mean, Starling didn't set out with the intention to become a core banking platform. It set out to be a digital bank. But in 2022, the decision was taken, well, hang on a second. We've developed this platform. It's hugely transferable. It's incredibly capable. Let's package it up and make it available as a managed service to banks around the world. And that is what we did. And that is where Engine comes from. So Engine by Starling is a company within Starling, but our remit is to go out, as I say, with this banking platform and help fintechs, banks who want to modernize, etc., to modernize their stack. So if I can talk about one case where we say our first client in Romania, basically Salt Bank in Romania, which was a subsidiary of Bank of Transylvania, they had a challenge in relation to, I suppose, being an existing bank. Some of the digital banks coming in from a European perspective were starting to erode that and starting to compete in a big way. People like Revolut, etc. So there was a requirement and a desire to create a very much a Romanian digital bank that would be a competitor and would be better, shall we say, than anything else that could be offered. And they chose Engine as their platform. And it was stood up as a brand new digital bank. And in 12 months, we managed to deploy it on AWS to make it available as a managed service to the Romanian bank, to Salt Bank. Then their expertise, they developed their particular products. And as I say, we launched a fully live bank between 12 months in the hands of the public. And it's been a phenomenal success since. They have over 500,000 customers after the first year. I think, if I'm not incorrect, they had 100,000 customers in the first month. I mean, they saw the gap was there. It was a Romanian offering for 25 to 40, 50-year-old Romanian people, and they have loved it, and it's growing from strength to strength. And I think we talked there about like how that could be done today when it couldn't be done 10, 20 years ago. It's because of things like, as I say, the AWS service set, the infrastructure, the ability to deliver that resilience, and the acceptance from both the customer and, let's say, the regulator and the financial world, that this is actually the way forward. And I think that's been huge. And as you say, Addy, that technology is there now. We make it available all over the world.
Absolutely. I think something you called out about that repeatability is at the heart of our Better Together with Engine and AWS. It takes a lot of work to build these architectural patterns, have them compliant to regulatory norms, but a lot of those best practices are scalable across geos. So when you're proven this out in a complex regulated market such as the EMEA region, you have that repeatability available to take this to several other markets. And I think this is where, again, our partnerships with our consulting folks such as PwC and GFT come in, because they bring that consulting expertise. They're able to take those proven patterns and make it really easy for customers to get going. I mean, deploying a digital bank in 12 months is no easy feat. And it can only move faster when you have the right partnerships.
And that is so true. I mean, again, going back historically, but I tell a story. I remember working for, shall we say, a traditional bank, maybe back in the early 2000s, and we had set out for a new core banking replacement program. And this was a big program, and at the time, a very significant banking program in a very capable bank with very, very capable people. And on the first day the program started, we relocated to a new office, and out the window of that office, you could see the Lansdowne Road football stadium. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with Lansdowne Road, but it is the Irish base for the rugby and the soccer. It's our international stadium, right? It's a fabulous building, historic, etc. Scene of great victories and occasional losses, shall we say. Anyway, the day our program started, they started to knock down Lansdowne Road. They were rebuilding it. It was a major infrastructure program in the 2000s in Dublin. So they knocked it down and we set off, right? 3 years later, I was looking out that window, and the first game in the new Lansdowne Road was kicking off. I think it was Ireland versus Scotland in the rugby, right? It was a huge celebration, right? We still had not got one product live. 3 years later, we were migrating, we weren't in complete deployment, and we had not managed to get one product live. And that was not down to the people or the attitude or the desire. It was down to the complexity and just the challenge, as you talked about there, with existing stacks and aged technology on-prem, etc. Now, as I say, in AMP Bank in Australia, again, I think it was 12 months for a complete new SME offering on AWS, in that case working with PwC. But it was taking the lessons we had learned, Addy, exactly as you say, it is the same model replicated. I mean, it's deployed across multiple AWS zones, all of the resilience, scalability, the service architectures that are available are basically deployed and managed by us on behalf of the client in the same way we do for Starling Bank. And it's fantastic. It is a paradigm shift, I would say. Sorry,
well, I want to, in a minute, we're going to start getting into a little bit more depth on the customer example. But before we do, I guess I'm really interested to talk a little bit about the partnership with AWS. Like, tell us about a little bit about the history of the partnership with AWS and what's worked and what's helped you along the way.
Well, I think a huge amount. So we have a very, very close relationship with AWS, both originally from Starling and equally then from Engine as we're going out abroad. So be it Krishni here in the UK or Charit and the guys in the US, etc. Their ability to assist us at every step has been second to none. So one of the key things that we like to do as part of the initial, shall we say, engagement with some prospects is what we term a discovery exercise, whereby we take an extended period, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and investigate exactly what would be involved here in localizing maybe the solution, deploying it in a particular availability area or region. And every time to date, AWS have been hugely helpful in supporting everything from the initial engagement to working with our prospect clients and working with ourselves, to providing resources and capability to help us build out the particular examples. We've talked about areas where maybe we need things like outposts. Again, we've always had an immediate response about, well, this is what can be done, this is what should be done, this is where we're going. And having that in our back pocket, I mean, you talked about it, Addy. Going back to the Starling story, there was a whole engagement required with the regulator initially. And that wasn't purely the bank. We needed at every stage, we needed to be able to point to AWS and say, well, this is what we have. And there's a region in Dublin and one in London. We have Frankfurt. This is far, far more resilient and redundant than anything we thought we had when we had local data centers and things. But it was still a journey to bring the regulator on. There's no way a bank on its own could have done it. And again, the use case for something like that, it was key, and it has been key the whole way with AWS. But as I say, it's not just the established Starling Bank and our own deployment. For every new region we've gone into around the globe, we've been able to leverage and to get, we've been engaged with the local team, shall we say, on the ground from the AWS and then the wider group. And it's been phenomenal. I mean, it's just, we believe we all want to succeed together, and it's evident in every day's work, I think.
Awesome. Should we dive into the customer story? I think you've shared a few names. What was the journey like? Tell us about how it started, how it went. How does the consulting partner help here? We have to do this at scale.
Absolutely. So typically the way we advocate is very much, so it's not purely the technology. We also, I mean, we point to Starling Bank and say, right, we have a model here that has evolved over 7 years of how to run a successful digital bank. And that is, we're happy to share that with prospect customers as part of the whole engine deployment. Here are various operating models that will work as well. So when we initially spoke to Salt Bank and Gabi in Romania, they were hugely enthused because they were starting a bank from scratch. They were part of the wider Bank of Transylvania, but this was a standalone organization. So some of the best practice that they were able to see was of huge benefit both to them and to us. And we organized what we term immersion sessions. The exec were over here watching and seeing how things are done in Starling Bank and able to bring a lot of that back. Similarly, our whole development processes, they established their own engineering team based very similar on how we do the engineering in Engine. So that shared knowledge was hugely important to them. So we had met them initially, they saw what could be done. And then, as I say, we did our discovery, we understood what needed to be localized for the EU and for Romanian law, where the challenges might be. But we were very, very confident to say, right, we know this will work, we know how we can do it. What we need now is a third party, which is our SI partner. In this case, it was GFT. Again, hugely expertise in their area, and they built out things like the mobile app on behalf of Salt Bank, which was then becomes their IP. So what we had was that tripartite agreement, shall we say, or relationship. We have the client, we have the SI, and we have Engine. And it's worked supremely well. It's not like an us and them at any stage. It is very, very much a delivery program where we're all in this together. And as I said, I'd add AWS in because obviously that's key to the whole piece. The same model then we replicated in AMP in Australia, in that case with PwC. And again, it works. It has proven to work extremely well. And as I say, knowing some of the programs I've been involved with in my previous life, it's not always as easy as it might appear to be.
I think
I was reading in your pre-brief, Paul, that I think it's ended up from a Romanian banking perspective. I think it's 4% of the overall banking in the country, which is a staggering result considering where you started from.
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, and that is within, I suppose, 12 to 18 months. Now, a huge amount of that is obviously down to Salt Bank themselves and Gabi and the exec team there and what they drive. But we're very proud of the fact that, as I say, Engine was stood up, it was able to scale, and they've been able to innovate on top of it very, very quickly as well. So by taking, I think, some of the models that we have around the engineering piece, it's allowed them to expand out some of the capability. And it's back to what we're saying. It doesn't take a long time to deploy new kit, etc. And your huge confidence around your scalability and your performance, and you don't have that worry all the time that a new product or scaling that quickly would be an issue. And even from their perspective, those 100,000 in the first month, that was way beyond anyone's expectation. Yet we were not challenged because of, again, the design, the horizontal scalability, and the ability to rapidly spin it up. It was never an issue, which I think is phenomenal.
It's a great story, isn't it? I mean, I think that's one of the, I think back 10, 15 years, we would never be having this kind of conversation. Your ability to be able to build on the success that you'd had with the Romanian customers, be able to replicate the kind of foundational aspects of what you'd done and move into a totally new market and be able to spin it up straight away in Australia with AMP. I mean, it's just a fantastic story, isn't it? Your ability to be agile there and again deploy the infrastructure quickly is just an absolute game changer.
I think so, Michael. And I mean, as well as I do, things like agile, the term can mean different things to different people, but this was it is truly that agile, and agile in the ability to change and react, to rapidly, as you say, innovate and add to it. And it's not just how the program is run, it is, I suppose, everything around it, but it allows that level of rapid decisioning and rapid progression, I think. But yeah, no, thank you. But as I say, it's been phenomenal. But I think one of the key things, and it's funny maybe because people tend to be a little parochial, even though it was Romania, it was still the European Union, the UK, it was an area we were more familiar with. I think the Australian achievement then with AMP, which again, it's a separate set of regulations. There's a separate individuals to be convinced, both from the customer side and so again, from our perspective, it's phenomenal because the three of them are very different but very the same.
I think there's an essence in there, and the fact that we start with this what we call an immersion day or a game day. I think you have a similar name to it.
Yeah.
That 1 to 2 day workshop with the business users, the technical users, allowing them to see what's possible. Moving to a chance to say, hey, let's create that core working group that's going to solve this, and allow them to be somewhat disconnected from the wider organization with its red tape or bureaucracy, allowing them to innovate rapidly, and then doing the right discovery workshops on what your end customer needs. Those are such critical components. And then once you bring in that consulting partnership that has a proven pattern, I think you called it out, it's a tri-party play and it really accelerates. So really wanted to call that out as a recap, because it is at the heart of what a successful modernization looks like.
Absolutely, and you've touched on it once or twice there, Addy. I mean, there's obviously challenges where there is an existing estate, existing ways of working, migration requirements, etc. And yes, we can manage through all of them, and we're far better placed maybe than a legacy tech to do that. But there's challenges on it. But as you say, I mean, Engine is fascinating because it's not purely a technology company. Obviously, we come from Starling Bank, and the relationship we see lasting far more than just arriving, putting the tech on the ground and leaving again. I mean, it has to evolve together. And I think you're right, Addy, that relationship similar with our SI partners or the business partners, it is exactly the same thing. The lessons they have learned, they want to bring in and see grow and as much share. So I think it's proven the whole managed service model, because it's fundamentally different to anything else that's out there, because everything is available at the edge, it's just proven to be a great success, I think.
I think you guys wanted to play a little bit of a video. Want to get a direct look at the platform itself? Let's dive in.
I can run through a very quick overview. I think it's played from your side. So what we're looking at here, so this is basically the management portal. Again, this is the single operating system that the whole bank would use, and everyone in Starling Bank uses. It gives you your full, what we're looking at here, which is your CIF, your customer information system, all of the information around the customer, their associated accounts, their engagements, their mobile devices, all their activity. It is all there and available to the agent the minute a customer dials in or they're required. So here's a particular example where we use something like the customer service capability. Again, built in-house. It doesn't need to be integrated externally. It's already pre-integrated and built by Engine. So in this case here, the customer has a query about a particular transaction from DoubleTree Hilton. They click through the app, they find the transaction they're not happy with, and then they initiate a chat. So the chat is there. I mean, all looks right. But straight away, the customer agent is made aware. They pick up the chat in the same system, and they see exactly what the customer is seeing, and it's context aware in that they have access straight away to the specific transaction the guys are talking about. And then the level of granularity, the detail that we can provide from the transaction, the type of transaction, the timing, whether it's a card, whether it's material, is available, is fed directly back to the customer. Here we are, what's going on? And all of those engagements are maintained. You don't have this press button 1 to talk to person A, and then, I better transfer you to the card people, etc. We are very, very proud of the way that everything is there and available. And that's just a very quick demonstration of it.
Paul, thank you so much. That was fantastic. Boy, 30 minutes goes quickly. I tell you what, it just thoroughly enjoyed our chat today. We're just about at time. I just want to pop up the Engine's QR code if we can.
Yes.
Please, just for everybody watching online, engage with Engine. Take the QR code. We'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure Engine would love to answer your questions about the demo, their stories, both with their customers and all around the world and their journey with AWS. So love for you to engage directly with Engine.
Absolutely.
We are just about at time. Paul, thank you so much for joining us, and Addy, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. I've just put up the QR code.
Really appreciate it.
Of course, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll just pop up the QR code for Industries Live. Please feel free to give us feedback, and we'd love to hear your feedback on the stories, what you've enjoyed, what you haven't enjoyed, what you want to see more of. We're just about to wrap this half of the show. We've got an exciting second half coming up for you in just a moment. Just a goodbye from you, Addy and Paul. Thanks again so much.
Thanks, folks. Lovely to speak to you. Talk again.
Thank you, everybody. Really enjoyed having you. And again, Paul, thanks so much for joining us. Looking forward to the next half of the episode. And please join us again every second week on Industries Live. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon. See you later. Bye-bye. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Industries Live. So excited to join you for the second half of our show this week. Industries Live is our every second Tuesday show where we dive into an industry and we talk about the trends, the dynamics, the shifts, what partners and customers are seeing in the industry, what's going on with their business, what they're hearing from their customers. I love it. It's a fantastic time of the week, and I really learn so much every time. Welcome to the second half of our show this morning. My name is Michael Schmidt. I'm joining you here from Seattle, Washington in the Pacific Northwest. The sun is slowly coming up. I think as somebody said in the chat on the previous half of the hour, it is spooky season coming into the Pacific Northwest. I've noticed that almost every day the leaves are changing, and it is getting to that time of year where we start thinking about putting on our winter woolies. I think my wife said to me last night that the furnace is going to have to see some action in the next couple of weeks, which is never a good sign. Hope it's warmer wherever you are. I wanted to welcome my co-host, Addy Dubhashi. Before I do, my name is Michael Schmidt. As I said, I look after industry partnerships here at AWS, and I have the very lucky job of being able to meet lots of interesting customers and partners across industry and getting a sense of what they're doing and how they're disrupting. Today, we're going to be talking about financial services, and I'll get Addy to give us a bit of an introduction about what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, Addy, how are you? Maybe introduce yourself and how are things in New York this morning?
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. And for this episode with financial services, we're really focusing on modernization. So I lead a financial services practice for partner solutions, and we focus on how do we help end customers solve for their line of business use cases, bringing together AWS services with our partnerships across technology and consulting partners. Our goal is to make it really easy to get started, to migrate and modernize. And so the theme we have for this episode is how we're seeing modernization. We touched on digital banking to start with, but now we're diving into agentic AI and how can we really deploy production grade workloads. I'm really excited for this one because New York's the heart of finance. We're getting the autumn coming up. We have a global audience logged in onto this episode. And so I'm really keen to welcome Siva from CEO and founder of Lyzr AI.
Thanks, Addy. Thanks, Michael. Nice to meet you all.
Good morning, Siva. So excited for this conversation. As Addy said, lots to talk about. Anytime we're talking about agentic AI, it's always I learn something. So I'm very excited for our conversation this morning. Perhaps, Siva, why don't we start by maybe you could just introduce yourself quickly, and then just talk a little bit about Lyzr AI and just what tell for people who don't know you as well. Tell me a little bit about the company.
Fantastic. Yeah. So Lyzr is an agent infrastructure platform that is designed to run fully private in customers' own Amazon VPC. So naturally, we started getting a lot of interest from highly regulated markets. Financial services is probably the leading industry that we serve today. A bit of background about me. I started as a big data engineer at Tesco. So handling petabytes of data there, moved on to building my first startup when I was in India. So we built PowerUp Cloud, which became APAC's #1 AI ML startup of AWS, winning 6 AWS awards. And I grew the team to about 200 plus consultants. I sold the business to Larsen & Toubro, Infotech, a global SI. And there again, we grew the business out further. I was their global head of AWS business unit. The business grew from 65 million annual business to a 200 million annual business in under 3 years. Again, LTI ended up winning a couple of awards. So a lot of, I would say, time that I've spent with AWS ecosystem, which made it easier when I started Lyzr. I had a lot of friends and they knew what I bring to the table. And we started partnering with AWS from day one, taking agents and agentic AI automation to the market. And recently, even in the AWS New York Summit, Swami also featured Lyzr on stage as one of the preferred agent partners of AWS. So that's been the journey so far. I'm calling in from New York City here in Northeast, but happy to be here.
It's absolutely fascinating to have a serial entrepreneur like you, Siva, on the show, right? It is. We've seen this with our partner network, where those who understand the differentiated position that you can build on AWS and create industry-changing products and services. I mean, your company is a true reflection of that. So it's an excellent, kudos to what you built before with PowerUp. I remember partnering with y'all a few years ago as we scaled, and now with Lyzr, as you're really going after transforming production grade deployments of agentic across Gen AI. I wanted to touch a little bit on those themes that you called out. We're seeing very similar patterns in financial services. We're really seeing customers, historically FS customers have been fairly conservative. They've been cautious. They've said, look, I really want to make sure that this particular platform, this particular data that we're using is correctly at the right place. Are we compliant to data residency norms? Are we compliant to the regulatory asks in terms of availability and resiliency? But when it came to Gen AI, what we noticed is they really understood the value of this in terms of what it could mean for their business, and they started leaning in. We saw this happen in the speed of experimentation. We saw several financial institutions kind of collate all of the use cases across their organization and prioritize them in terms of what can drive the most value. But it also kind of brings a kind of slight risk, because once you've got this broad experimentation, you've got POCs happening everywhere, silos of groups saying, I think this is the right answer. It really requires an ability to take those POCs to production. What's that journey been for you? What are some of those trends you've seen in terms of Gen AI and agentic adoption?
Yeah. Today, we work with some of the biggest brands in the industry. They're building agents on Lyzr. I mean, NVIDIA, Under Armour, Publicis from the non-financial services industry. And then we have some big banks and insurance firms building on Lyzr as well. And what we see here is that the intent and the eagerness is the same across both both financial services and non-financial services. Whatever innovation that someone at Under Armour wants to do is exactly what someone at Goldman Sachs or JPMC wants to do as well. So we don't see there's a issue with respect to the energy levels or intent, but it comes down to a safer ecosystem for them to build all of this. You don't learn driving by hitting on I-9 on day one. Like, you learn driving by, trying to drive your car in your backyard and then slowly progress. And that is what we did at Lyzr. We realized that customers need, especially financial services customers need, all the building blocks that are required in an agent development lifecycle, right? Starting from agents and orchestrations and knowledge base and knowledge graph, responsibility, guardrails, hallucination, the whole thing, whole 9 yards, including agent evaluation. And we realized that what if we bring the whole ecosystem into their own Amazon VPC, so that not even one byte of data has to leave the environment and they could test all of it. So this thought process literally changed the way these organizations build. We have one of the largest insurance firms who started with a very niche use case. They started with automating retirement planning to begin with. And we built, and the agent went live, or rather pre-production, in 8 weeks. Then I was invited by the CTO to come in and do an agent masterclass to the whole leadership. And I did a 90-minute masterclass to about 100 plus leaders in the organization. And within a week, I think couple of weeks, we ended up getting calls from 6 different departments, because the whole leadership team realized that they could innovate at the same pace as a startup, but within the controlled environment, everything within their own cloud. So I think that's been the key, designing the entire architecture to run completely locally within customers' own cloud. We do have a SaaS version that runs on AWS. So some customers start on SaaS and then obviously progress towards on-prem or VPC version. But I can say that the intent and energy is actually the same across both on both sides.
It's interesting you say that, Siva. So firstly, I love the term serial entrepreneur. I don't know whether anybody's used that to describe you before, but we definitely can learn a lot from your experience. So I'm so glad we have you on. I was just sort of listening to you and thinking a little bit about what you were saying. What I've heard from a lot of customers, partners, especially last year, I think there was a lot of, a little bit of fear of missing out, a little bit of kind of like, I know I need to be doing things with agentic and generative AI, but I'm not sure what can I do. And I've definitely seen the conversation pivot a lot to, really letting the use case and the workflow, the business workflow, drive the use of AI rather than the other way around. And so, when you're talking about, like, for me, and I was reading the pre-brief before we got on today, compliance is just such a, I mean, in some ways, I would say obvious, but a very strong use case for what you can do with agents. And particularly, I go back to what somebody once said to me is, like, anytime there's a heavy lift for a professional, you might have a good case for AI. And for me, just looking at some of your use cases and customer stories already, the impact that you've been able to have for a financial services organization on their compliance requirements, both in terms of, not just in terms of the efficiency and the ability to do enormous amounts of, work with an agent that a human would have taken a much longer time to do, the accuracy, but also the flexibility that you just described, to be able to say, okay, well, this workflow is a start, and to be able to do enormous amounts of, compliance management is a great start. But it's a platform on which you can integrate other agents and other aspects to the workflow if you start simple.
Yes. See, I wrote the core Lyzr agent framework back in July 2023. It's been like 2 years, wherein we've evolved from a framework company to a full stack infrastructure company. And I've interacted with hundreds of CIOs building thousands of agents. And I can say this for sure. After failing in a lot of agentic projects, I can say for sure that there are two critical points that defines whether an enterprise would be able to deploy an agent in production successfully. It is very similar to an airplane taking off and landing. If you know the process behind the scenes, the pilot is most involved during the takeoff and during landing. Rest of the time, it's cruise control. It's a very similar thing that happens here as well. Most of the time we spend today with the customer is during at the beginning of an agent development. We try and understand what is the problem and what is the type of agent or type of orchestration, type of context engineering that we need to do in order to solve that problem. So we spend a lot of time there. Once we do that, rest all is like in cruise control mode. Build an agent, build the orchestration, attach the knowledge base, all of that, RAG, graph RAG, everything is taken care of. And then the last part, the landing part, is the agent evaluation. Today, we have the Lyzr agent evaluation engine that can run 10,000 simulations for a simple customer service support agent. 10,000 simulations running and testing various aspects, tool calls, knowledge calls, etc., so that you are absolutely sure that your agents actually work. You have tested all the scenarios. A bank or an insurance firm always have to share their reports to the MRM team, the model risk management team internally, the InfoSec teams, before even they could push things to production. So we realized that these are two critical points. Though we've built the whole infrastructure platform end to end, we tend to spend a lot of time during the discovery phase so that we map things properly, and then towards the evaluation stage. And I always share, tell to our customers, right? Like, I meet fantastic CIOs who are like industry veterans. They spent 20, 25 years in this space. But I do tell them that don't worry about mapping this whole thing, which is where we come into picture. I have a 5-year-old kid. He doesn't come to me say that I need Tylenol. He says, I'm feeling tired. So he shares the problem. It is up to us to figure out, okay, how do I solve this problem? So that is the kind of approach that we take. So yes, that's been kind of our approach to the industry team here.
Yeah, I think this very much resonates with the AWS style. We right at the heart of our operating model is our leadership principles. And so, diving deep and understand the customer obsession to understand what is the real problem behind the ask is something that is so close to our heart as well. And I think when we're thinking about applying this into financial services, I think you called this out in one of our previous chats. You've been able to drop regulatory compliance workflows by 40%. You're talking about consistent observability and having audit trails maintained. These are right at the heart of those compliance asks. Do you want to share a customer case study? I think y'all really called out some fascinating ones in our pre-brief and discussion before.
Yeah, I mean, we can bring up the workflow architecture to showcase what happened behind the scenes. So this is
that'd be great.
Yeah, so we started meeting a lot of GRC teams, governance, risk, and compliance teams within banks, and we realized that they actually spend a lot of time in internal audits, basically, right? So we have, for example, FINRA, FRB, OCC, various banking regulators who kind of have written these policies that have to be followed by different teams within the organization. We are talking about, say, customer support. So FINRA, for example, if you can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Slide number 2. So if you see here, we have FINRA, which applies to several, I would say, teams internally. We're talking about FRB and OCC handbooks, which are being again applies to various teams within the organization. So we thought, okay, in the world of agentic AI, this could be solved from a different angle. So what we did, we spoke to these organizations. We actually visited DC, met the leaders, and we understood what they are thinking about the whole space. And then we scraped all the handbooks, excuse me, of FINRA, FRB, OCC, FDIC, all the leading regulators in this space, and built a very large knowledge graph, which runs on Amazon Neptune, by the way, in the backend. And the knowledge, this agent now plays as a powerful agent, which could be plugged into any workflow within a bank. And imagine the whole thing can run privately, locally as well. So if you think of customer support as a process, the customer support agent in real time can interact with the regulatory compliance agent to check whether that particular transaction or session is compliant or not. Imagine what it brings to the table. We are talking about real-time compliance at a agent action level applied across the organization. So when your internal audit team, if they do a random sampling, and they give a clean sheet, and then an FRB or OCC comes in and they do a random sampling and they find and actually give you MRAs, you don't have to go through all of this worry now. You have a system that is checking for compliance in real time, and the graph agent continues to track any changes that is happening from the regulatory bodies and update those changes. And this is perfectly in line with what some of the regulators think. When we asked FINRA, what is their number one, I would say, agenda, they said, we want to serve our member companies, member organizations in a better way. And now Lyzr is playing that role. We are building all of this, ensuring that the banks and insurance firms and financial services firms are able to be compliant at an agent action level. I think that is the future. That is a future that we all are moving towards, real-time compliance.
And I think you've just brought out something that is so powerful, right? A lot of these regulations are out there, and the regulators are looking for clear intent. Are you doing the right things? Are you following the spirit of what we're trying to do to protect the markets? And so by preparing this, not only have you been able to extract those regulations, keep them in a easily parsable library, but the semantics and ontology you've built out is a pattern that will continue to develop. So what you've extracted into Neptune today on AWS is going to connect back to the internal document libraries, be able to interpret that context, and then continually maintain a learning library of sorts that Lyzr can continue to level up on over time. It's a very fascinating approach you've taken.
Absolutely. And imagine all the models coming via Bedrock, all your ML models running on SageMaker. So, and Lyzr is able to integrate with all these services natively. It just changes the way now banks can operate. They don't have to wait for multiple clearances and SOC 2 certificates, etc. Everything is like by default available.
Yeah, I think the thing I also love about it is it's completely real time. Like it's just to be able, with 100% accuracy, to be able to distill these things up. And I think there's also, you can bubble them up for human interpretation. So you can say, okay, well, and how far you take the automating of, how you manage those, you can experiment with. But I think once you've trained on the large data set, which is of course all your compliance documentation, the ability to move quickly and be able to roll it out into a new set of scenarios, or be able to assess something new against the compliance foundations is very quick. Whereas historically it would have taken an enormous amount of human effort to kind of re-review a document, make sure you're up to date with the current compliance requirements. I mean, it just speaks to me at the heart of what is a fantastic agentic use case. So yeah, very, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to call out, right? Lyzr is a GenAI competency partner, and this is really important for AWS. We really make sure that our partners who are specializing are making that right investment to learn how they can use our best practices, services, and architectures. But on the other hand, we really make sure we want to invest into the partners who've gained the competency, who are building these verticalized solutions. And so something that we often do in my team works with our regional counterparts across EMEA, APJ, and the Americas is how do we take these ready patterns, create the workshops and as we call game days to showcase these to customers. We do them in the form of roundtables. We do them in the form of individual customer workshops. And then we invest in them so customers can get really quick in applying those patterns. So just wanted to call out the great work Lyzr's team is doing, but this is about helping you scale. And any thoughts about how you're looking to the next 18 months? How does Lyzr look at scaling the patterns? What are the themes you're going to focus on?
Yeah, we already have close to 1,000 agentic blueprints. So, for example, we solved customer onboarding, corporate customer onboarding for a bank in APAC. But now that blueprint is available for any other banks to just clone and start using them. We follow the AWS thought process that whatever customer builds on Lyzr is customer IP. So several such blueprints are available today on Lyzr. So as a bank or an insurance firm, when you adopt Lyzr platform, you also get these blueprints, not only for your vertical automation like loan processing, claims processing, customer support, and so on, but also horizontal corp functions, including your HR automation, marketing automation, sales automation, and so on. So over the next 18 months, our direction is to work with more financial service customers, help them automate workflows, have these blueprints available to the larger ecosystem. But the vision that we're working towards is something we call as OGI, Organizational General Intelligence. And that is really where Lyzr kind of stands apart from every other player in this space. All the agents that we build on Lyzr, they interconnect via an agent mesh, and they continuously enrich a central intelligence for the organization. Imagine your HR team or a people team having their own intelligence being built in real time. Similarly, your marketing team, your loan origination team, and so on. But as a bank, in about 24 months, you are looking at a central super agent that knows literally every process. It has mapped out all the process. It is able to now unearth patterns. It is able to figure out things that may break tomorrow, like today. So OGA is literally achievable, and we've have some early versions of OGA running already. And that is a big release that we are moving towards. So that's in store for the 18 months. I think we are super excited about where we are headed as a technology, not just Lyzr. I think as a technology where we are headed, and our goal here is to just enable every financial services firm own their own IP. Because please understand, they're not building necessarily some workflow automations. They are building their future AI employees. So, and that is an IP that they should own. They should not get logged into these other large enterprise platforms. And hence, we believe in that. Own your AI employees, own your knowledge, and get to OGI.
I think that's, again, we were just talking about before, but it's the real power is to be able to build out your agentic architecture, to be able to make it more sophisticated, be able to integrate more variables and more elements into your agentic architecture, to distill the decisions up to humans where you need to. But at the end of the day, where decisions are 99% the same decisions, well, maybe those are automated too. But what I love about the mental model is to be able to make those steps when you're ready, and so, I think it's fantastic. I really enjoy your vision, and I think it's a very, it's a bold vision, but I think it's a very real vision. So, great to hear that, Siva. I know we've got a couple more slides we wanted to get to. Let's pop up. Siva, maybe you just quickly walk us through there. We're getting a little low on time, but I did want to get to this slide because there's a really interesting story here. So perhaps you could just talk through this a little bit.
I'll probably take just 30 seconds on this. This is probably one of the most complex use cases that we've ever received from a bank in the financial services space. Here we are talking about a multi-agent system that actually picks every lost customer. So customer who wanted to onboard and then during the onboarding stage, they dropped off. Now the agent goes and analyzes more about the customer, follows up with them. And during the conversation, the agent scores what is the profile of the customer. And if it realizes that it could actually give them some fantastic offers and bring them back on board, it does that in real time. And this is probably, like I said, I would rate it from a complexity point of view right on top. And this is going pre-production shortly. So just to show, we want to show the kind of complexity that Lyzr platform could solve for banks and insurance firms. And if you would like to know more, I think next slide has some contact information. Next slide, sorry. We'll just move from the use cases. So please visit Lyzr.ai. And if you want to build, just visit studio.lyzr.ai, which is a self-serve platform for you to give an idea of how agents are built. But we have a custom agent development team, and we deploy forward deployed engineers to our banks and insurance customers so that you don't have to kind of worry about building. We're going to build it with you to help you accelerate the whole agentic AI automation.
That is absolutely fascinating. I think just specifically to personalization, it's one of the largest themes we see in FSI when it comes to analytics and cross-organizational insights. Immense value to the CMO, immense value to the sales teams. We've seen specific asks in asset management that ask for better portfolio construction, insurance in terms of right customer targeting and claims processing. So I think what you just called out and at pre-production today, but it's just an excellent asset to have and showcase. So we're more than happy to kind of support these go-to-market motions. And I think the GenAI competency offers a number of funding structures as well that help us drive these as workshops for customers.
Indeed. Well, I can't believe 30 minutes has gone past. Siva, this was a thoroughly engaging conversation. And honestly, we can all learn a lot from you. The serial entrepreneur, you've been through this journey. I would love the fact that you were able to sort of share a couple of things that have worked, things that haven't, the key success factors. This was a fantastic conversation. So we really, really thank you for making the time for us. Really appreciate the partnership. I'm going to just, if we could pop up our QR code as well. You saw the details about how to engage with Lyzr AI before. Please give us feedback. I hope you enjoyed this half hour as much as Addy and I did, and I hope Siva did as well. Addy, Siva, thanks for making the time. Siva, any last words for our viewers? Otherwise, we're gonna finish.
No, it was fantastic conversation. Thanks for having me here. And this is going to be my last company. We're taking all the way to an IPO. So I want to lose the serial back. Yeah, thanks for having me here. Thanks, Mike. Thanks.
No worries. Addy, any last words from you?
Well, this was a fantastic session. Agentic is just accelerating and fascinating to see those FS case studies and examples. There's more to come.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you for joining us on Industries Live. We look forward to joining you every other Tuesday. So in 2 weeks, we'll have another bunch of interesting partners to talk about their interesting customer stories. But in the meantime, enjoy your day, and we look forward to seeing you next time. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.